So it is 3:05. Yes, I said that, and we're gonna get started. So, business: how to beg for money or manage finances and get money for FRC. Pretty simple, but here's just a little quick overview of what we're gonna do as a business subteam. So, as you recall, it is business outreach and logistics, and the reason why I split into three parts is because you guys do a lot of work, and that typically correlates around sort of our public image. And of course, to build a robot, we do need money. So money is very important in terms of building a robot and everything else, because we also need publicity material. We need T-shirts. T-shirts are mandatory every single year, so we need money for that, and quite a few other things. So money very important. So the let's talk about outreach because it is a pretty big one. I think it's the biggest topic here. So outreach, there are a few aspects to it, but the two of the few aspects are companies and future members. So companies and corporations are always interested to take a look at, I guess, possible future employees, but we're not really at that position yet. They're really more interested to give back to the community. And don't tell anyone I said this, except this is going to be on YouTube. They're also interested for the tax receipts, which is pretty relevant. They want to sponsor our team so that we want them to sponsor our team so that we have money to build a robot and even just enter the competition, amongst other funds, which is like, we might get pizza one day, and so we need some money for that because, pizza costs money. And the sponsors are typically interested in two primary things, which is supporting children in the STEM industry. So whether it's people who are not in our club, but people who we affect. So if we go to like open house and we have a demonstration, and people get sort of knowledge about what robotics is, then that's going in one way, or giving back to the community in general, where we are sort of, where they're trying to give back to the schools in the local area and, just get their hands in on influence. So future members, it's also pretty important that we get a steady stream of passionate students coming into our club, right? So we don't want disconnects, and we don't want people in grade 9 thinking that this club is lame, because this club is not lame. If you're in grade 9, this club is not lame. That's a fact, not a statement. That's a fact. And so we always want a steady stream of students coming in, and we always want interest around robotics and robotics-related fields. So it's very important. So examples of how we can reach our future members is typically it centers around open house, middle school presentations, local events, right? So I'm pretty sure you might have had some in your own middle schools. I know I did, where people from a robotics team came over and they showed off their robots, and we got to break things. That was really fun. Local events such as you have some just general like school-based local events. So I know our school hosts some of them, which is just like grade 8 convention or something, and that's a great way we can reach our future members. Open house is also, I think, a big one, because open house is when parents and children come into the school, so it's a great way to sort of reach both people. Speaking of parents, so let's go to this part. Other teams are also just as important to connect with. Building good relations allow us to get a partnership going with them, and good relationships, which is beneficial to us. So for those of us who are unfamiliar with the format of a FRC competition, we compete in teams of 3 known as alliances. So there's a blue and a red alliance. That's typically how they go. And so if we are familiar with the teams and it's a really good team, then we can make our alliance selection a lot easier, and we can get partnered with some teams that can carry, or that we can work with to get good results. So it's always good to have these sort of relationships with other teams, and the best way we can do that is through social media, but we can move on. It also helps with debugging and general problem solving. The input of other robotics people is important. So let's say that there's a faulty motor that we got from our supplier, then we can talk to these other teams, and we can be like, yo, look, I ordered a motor and it broke. Is your motor broke too? And they're like, my motor super broke. And we are like, oh my God, all motor broke, and we get a refund. So it's just a great way of sort of connecting around and getting input of other people within the FRC community. So it's a great thing to do. The second, or not second, but another important source that we need to sort of talk about is the community itself. So the largest source of money in our team will always be the parents, at least on a school team, or typically the largest one. Building a connection with the community will give us a better outreach with parents. So it gives us a better connection with the parents to sort of get them thinking like, oh, wow, that's a pretty cool robotics team they got there. Maybe I should send my kid to that school. Maybe we should join that club, and I'll pay money for it. And the kids are like, wow, robotics, I'm so happy. And the parents are like, wow, my kid is learning, I'm so happy. And we're like, wow, we're so happy, we have money. It's a win-win-win. It's a win for everyone. So it's always important that we sort of have that connection with the parents. And then parents will only give money for the students to participate if they know that we're a good team. If we just out of nowhere say, give us money or your child will not be a part of our club, which is very good because we said it's good, then they will most probably not give us money. because it makes no sense. So we need to prove to them that we are a reputable club and that we do need their money for something important, and we will do something important with their money in terms of making a robot and doing cool stuff. So community events where we can touch with parents is presentations at libraries. That's a pretty big one. So I know that there's another robotics team that did a presentation at a library. Pretty cool. We also have stands and outreach during community events. So places like farmers markets or just other general events where we see parents lying around is where we can sort of make this connection with them, along with open house, as I said before. I just thought that'd be redundant, so I didn't add it in there. Any questions so far? Any comments, questions, concerns? Yeah, so about the meeting schedule, I'm only foreseeing around 2, maximum 3 meetings for this because most of it is basically common sense. Um, I'm not disregarding business or outreach because we do need you guys, but most of it is just you learn as you go and you learn with experience. So there's not much that I can actually provide to you guys, more than just a general guideline of how you should be acting or how your email should look. Yeah, you learn by doing. Thank you, Armand. The exclamation mark is very cringe, though. I really I want to delete that, but I'm not a moderator, so that's sad. But the point is, it's a great way of sort of getting that experience. But the only way you can get the experience is really through in person and once you get started. So once you start getting experience in terms of, oh, this works. I get a lot more replies if I do this one strategy. Or, oh, if I add this subject and I make it a little bit convoluted, I don't get a lot of attention. So it's all about, trying it out. And while we can provide some of the experience and what works, it's just, it's a little bit easier for you guys to sort of do it yourself because, a lot of it is self-guided. Okay, so no questions so far, I'm assuming. Sounds good. Let's move on. Okay, here. And the second main responsibility you guys will be in charge of is finances. Yay! So finances is, it's typically just one general thing, but it can be split. It can be explained in different parts. So one of them is budgeting. So of course, building a robot is expensive, and participating is expensive too. We'll check that out in the last slide for some reason. I don't know how I formatted this, but to make sure we aren't in debt and that we have enough money and resources for next year, because again, we are a robotics team that continues year after year, so there's always a season. So we need to make sure next year isn't working with zero money, which happened this year, and we're in pain, so much pain. But budgeting is more than just tracking the money spent. It's also about finding alternative strategies and proposing other funding options as well. So it's all about just making sure that you know where your money is and you know how to get more money if needed, or you know how to spend money in a way where you're not bleeding money, essentially. And a big part of that is managing the flow of money. So while this is related to budgeting, it's important to have, like, let's say, just a Google Sheets or some sort of method or a list of purchases that clearly shows how much money has been moving through the accounts. And the reason why we need this is because we need to report the money to our school administrators. Fun fact, they are paying a lot of money to this club to keep it running because there are a ton of expenses, as we'll check in the last slide. So we do need to report to the school and say, yeah, we're not spending your money on useless stuff. So the flow of money is crucial. And if we don't show it off, then we will get defunded and killed. Spelled kill, like that. It's also a good way to find the sinks that drain the most amount of money. So if you, let's say, you have bought the same set of wires like 50 times and they have broken each time, that's a very clear way of saying, oh yeah, this isn't working. We need to switch away from this model and we'll do it better next time. And that's sort of, it's a good way of identifying where your money is going, what's taking up the most amount of money, and how you can fix that later on. Oh yeah, any questions with finances or anything you guys want to add? Does burglary count as a source of income for the robot? Technically, we're not allowed to use parts that are stolen from other teams, especially if they are on the hunt for them. But we can use parts that are not borrowed. We can use parts that are loaned from other teams. So loaned in the sense that they're not using it anymore, so they can give it to us, or we can buy used parts. But we never really tend to buy used parts because that's a horrible idea. Buying newer parts is a lot better. So money from the community, I wouldn't suggest stealing money from the community. Horrible idea too. We will get sued and you will probably get it on your student record. And that's not going to be a fun thing for universities to look at, or your criminal record. Okay, so moving on, finance is done. Connections with the community. So this is sort of building up on the outreach part 1, outreach part 2 sort of thing. So let's move on. Social media. Social media, and in terms of the graphics that are posted on social media, they're actually going to be managed by the they're going to be managed by the people that like in graphic design, right? So they'll actually make the design. So you guys don't have to worry about that. In terms of business, how business works into this, it's more about using the social media within your emails, within your presentations, and sort of intelligently incorporating it into other events and other things that business is more a part of. So graphic design and social media in general are more of a joint conjunction between business and graphics. But I didn't say social media is a joint between business and graphics. So you guys will probably be working close with them. We don't have a graphics team this year. We decided to do some of it in-house. So we will be showing that off. And we'll be getting your input on it too. Just to sort of give you guys open templates that you can design your own graphics using, especially because this is an in-house competition. But next year, we will have a proper team and we will have proper emails for everyone. So should be good. We should be good to go. But for now, we are sort of limited in the sense that we can't really have a proper social media presence considering we can't really meet up and have these meetings. So let's move on. The links are key. Linking our social media and relevant forms of our public image, such as our website, are crucial to getting more people to follow us. So let's say that we go to an event, we need to use our social media to sort of make sure that they're still connected. Oh yeah, Akash?
I was just wondering, like for the linking thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to create a separate like Instagram account just for the FRC business team?
Yeah, okay. So in terms of a separate Instagram account just for the FRC business team, I wasn't really planning on it. So in terms of the social media outreach, what I was planning on having you guys do during the competitions was more of you show off, like you work with the people and you sort of, or we'll give you open templates that are designed already. You just fill it with content. And once you fill it, you kind of show it off. But we do have our Instagram, and next year, if you guys are still participating, you will be able to work directly with the graphics people on working on the social media on that account. So we're not planning on making a new one, but we're just going to sort of incorporate it into the primary one. It's going to be run by you guys. The only reason we're running it this year is because we really needed to start off fresh, and we're still on the training portion of everything. So does that sound good?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, no problemo. Yeah, so linking is key. And so we need people to have that connection with us, connection with our team. So people with that connection will typically tend to support our team more. They'll know about our name. They'll spread our name. So let's say that we send it to some like, Indian mom group on Facebook or on Instagram or WhatsApp. They don't use Instagram. Facebook or WhatsApp, right? Then once they get knowledge of it and they know, oh, look, Chintu is joining 3560 FRC. Oh, I heard about that. They actually did an event at Brampton Library. And boom, a positive reinforcement, and our club is in a better public image. So social media, linking everything is a key. And it's important that we lead links to something related to us, right? So if we want to give them information, let's say that we wanted to give them information, let's go back to the presentation, about what is FRC, right? Then we can actually link that to a YouTube video that we made before, and they'd have to check the description to get a specific link. But in the YouTube video, we condense the information and we can advertise ourselves there. So it's all about building our public image and getting our name out there. So getting our name in the minds of the people. That's what social media is about. Sounds a bit evil, but it's not really evil. It's just marketing. And so consistency is always key in marketing and outreach. So if everything has the same name, it can be added to a banner with minimal, effort. So let's say that I had, yes, I too love the example. Currently in two, okay, thank you, Armand, for putting that there. So let's say that we're talking about our Instagram, right? If we have our Instagram as Robotics3560 and we have our Twitter as Team3560, which is what it was before, which is why it's just a complete mess. So if they're all in different names, that means you have to fill up like a whole bottom footer with all of our different things, right? But if we make it all consistent, then we could just keep one single message there, which is the name of our social, and we can add multiple icons right next to it to sort of signify that all of them have the same name. And we kind of want to keep that minimal effort sort of mojo going on, and we want to keep our name memorable. So if they say, oh, look, they're on Instagram at 3560FRC, I wonder if they're on Twitter, and they search up our name, and it comes up, and they're like, wow, they're on Twitter. I can't believe this was so easy to get. And of course, that's our goal, right? We want to make everything easy. People have short attention spans, and we want to retain this in their heads. So it's always better. All of our socials are now 3560 FRC to sort of get that consistency. And the reason why we did that is a long story, but it involves losing account credentials over the years and a lot of other things. So, now we have newer socials. They're a bit better and everything's good to go. Beyond this, the language and design should also be consistent. And by designs, I mean like the general design. So we don't want to see like a sort of steampunk vibe in one sort of marketing material, and we don't want like a futuristic vibe in the next, because that kind of messes up our mojo. We want to keep everything consistent. And in the sense of consistency, we also want to keep everything similar in color scheme, right? So we don't want to switch the color scheme too much. If one of them is primarily red, we don't want to make the second one blue, because that's just like, where's the consistency there? So we did plan out a color scheme and a few other things just to make sure that everything is consistent, along with the type of text. And so what I mean by the type of text is we want to make sure that it isn't written too differently. So if we have one person who uses a lot of abbreviations like don't, couldn't, wouldn't, and whatever, and then we have someone who's fully writing them out, like could not, would not, do not, blah, 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 then it's going to cause a lot of confusion, because you're like, where's the consistency in this? Why does it look so different? And I know it seems like a marginal detail, like, oh, who's going to pay attention to that? But it does stick, and it does stick pretty well, which is why we kind of want to keep everything in a general consistent vibe. Everything sound good so far in the social media section of it? Am I going too fast? I'll try to go slower if my voice is like 2 times lecture speed. Did I bring my water bottle upstairs? Oh, I might not have. Yeah. A bit of an issue. Okay. Any questions? No questions? I'm going to take that as no questions. Let's move on. Oh, someone left the meeting. That's unfortunate. Okay. Connecting to or connecting with event managers. So as I said before, we do want to put ourselves in events, right? And putting ourselves in events, typically it tends to be a difficult process if we don't really, let them know that we're coming in before. So if we just walk in with like a pickup truck with a booth inside, they're probably going to kick us up. So we always want to connect with the event managers, and we always want to make sure that we have our amenities needed, right? So we might need a plug in the wall, and that might be hard to do, especially at like a farmer's festival or something, or some other event that's outdoors. So we always want to connect with the event managers to make sure that we can get the resources we need, and to make sure that we are not, out in the middle of nowhere or kicked out of the event. So it all starts with the first contact, and this is true for any sort of contact you're doing from the team. Sending the first email is crucial to any sort of professional venue, so anything professional in any way. And never be afraid to ask if you can do something, right? So a lot of people sort of chicken out. They're like, oh, but they probably don't care about it, right? So it's not on their website, right? They probably don't want us there. But the thing is, it never hurts to shoot an email. If they don't read the email, there's no loss to you. There's no loss to our public image. If they do read it and say no, it's no loss to us either. It's just, okay, yeah, whatever. We understand. You might not have space. You might not want to entertain us. It's okay. But if it does work out, that's going to be more of a gain than it is a loss. So I always do recommend never be too afraid to ask about anything. Even in your own personal lives, if you're looking for a job or something and you don't really see a job offer page, it's typically a lot easier to just shoot an email and say, yo, look, I'm interested and I kind of want to get this done. So that's just good advice in general. And the emails, make sure you talk about how we being there will benefit the event itself. So how it can benefit the event and benefit the audience of the event. So giving an insight into how we work as a team and how it can be sort of quote unquote inspiring can be very important. And so this inspiration is essential to sort of getting our name out there, basically, right? So it's sort of, oh, look, these are just a couple of high school kids and they made a death robot. That's really impressive. And we're like, yeah, we did. You should totally sponsor us so we can make more. They're like, yes, I want to see more death robots. They might not sponsor us on the spot. Who knows? They might. Always expect for the best. But it's good to sort of have that public outreach there. And we can always advertise us going to these events as reaching out with the people. Also, children love to play with robots. And it's a great way to sort of, get them connected, get them on the controller, shooting dodgeballs at people and just having fun in general. So it's a great way to get our name out there. It's a great way to get people, get our name in people's heads and everything. So always go for the first contact and always tell them how we can benefit it. It's difficult now because we don't really have an event history. We haven't really been to a lot of events. So we can't really talk about history, but once we start going to events, once we start getting that history, because we're saying, oh, look, we were at this event in 2021, and it went out really well. So maybe you should give us a try here because we could do the same thing for you guys. And they're like, oh my God, I didn't know you guys were at the event. I will totally help you guys out. Wow. And it might work out. Who knows? always leave questions within the email to ensure that they're encouraged to send a reply. And so this is a bit controversial. People say you should never leave emails. You should never leave questions in professional emails. It should all be statements to sound confident. But again, this is first contact, and we sort of want them to get the inquiry of, oh, look, we want to go in. Can you guys fit us in, right? Like, we don't want to say, oh, yeah, look, we want to go in. We have all this, and just leave it at that, right? Because that's going to be a little, it's going to be a little complicated, and it's just going to be way too confident for what we're sort of going for. So in my opinion, again, you guys can sort of shift this up. It depends on how well you play it out. But in general, leaving questions within the email, especially at the end, sort of helps get a better reply rate. So even if they reject us, as long as we get a reply, we have the initial connection with them, which is great. Okay, budgeting for events is pretty important too. So we always want to have a good amount of publicity material and merch for the public to remember us by. So, you know, like pins, buttons, water bottles, what else? D-brand skins, you know, whatever we can get. If we just want to get that merch out there. And the reason why the merch is important is basically the merch is going to help us give our name to them in a way that they can remember it, right? So once you get, like, let's say a water bottle of a team and you constantly use it, you will always remember that team's name, or you'll have that team's name in mind at some point. If you give them a t-shirt, it's even better, because whenever they wear the t-shirt, they're like, oh yeah, 3560, the robotics team, I remember them. They're at that one event and they let me shoot their death robot and I hit someone and almost got sued, right? So it's always about just building that connection with them and getting that in. However, merch is not cheap, and it's important that we don't spend too much money on it. So we can't give a t-shirt, or we can't give a hoodie, or we can't give a water bottle or a pin or something to every single contender, or not contender, every single participant at our event. Rather, we want to make it something that's available to all people, right? And in that sense, we want to make sure that, not make sure, but we want to keep a nice balance in terms of having games. And the reason why we have these games is basically we can keep the merch as prizes. So only a few select people actually have access to it. But it allows for sort of an easier way of getting the merch out there, and a better participation rate too, right? So for the other people at the events, it's a lot better for them to actually sort of get interactive and keep our name in mind, I guess, to an extent. Finally, there are other side expenses, or there might be other side expenses, especially with planning these events. So some of them could be food costs. Others could be setting up the stand itself. You might have to pay a little bit of a rent for that. So yeah, you can make it a little small competition, or you can make it sort of like, you know, those rolling games, pachinko. That's what it's called, pachinko. Like online a bit. What do you mean, like online a bit? Networking. Oh, hashtag networking? I don't know, that might be a relevant hashtag. But yeah, networking is definitely important. And I'll get to that. I think that's mentioned later on in the presentation. But for now, it Sorry for the unmute, someone walked in. Okay, moving on. Yeah, so as I was saying, networking is relevant, and we will sort of get into it. But yeah, networking is more of sort of taking advantage of these things and meeting up in bigger events. So networking is actually what I was going to cover in our next presentation, because that's sort of at the competition itself. That's the largest sort of mix of all these robotics interested people that we can get. And we can probably make networks with them and get connections to other sponsors, see who's interested in everything. So that's for the next meeting, but networking is crucial and essential. But yeah, we can have like, so side expenses for the thing can be, you know, setting up the booth, food, whatever. I said that. Okay, so how do these events help? I explained it throughout, but again, I'll explain a little bit more. So future member contact, new students will get to play around in the games, and if they win merch, it can stick with them as a fond memory, right? So if they can say, oh yeah, I remember I went to this one place and I won a t-shirt. It was really cool, and I really like the t-shirt. It looks epic. And they sort of keep it with them for a while. That means we have good contact with other people who might be able to join our club. Parental contact is also important, because parents will now know about the team, right? So we give them a brochure, we show them, you know, the banner and everything, and they'll know exactly what we can provide for the kids once we show a robot and how well it shoots dodgeballs. Again, banners and social media can give them a way to connect with us and choose 3560 in the future. Also, the parents will also have a fond memory of the merch if their kids are happy. So it's a win-win-win situation for everyone, except it's sort of, it's a bit of a loss considering we have to pay money for the brochures, but it's okay. Any questions so far? Hold on, let's go back. Any questions so far? No. That's a very blunt no. Okay. I think it is generally common sense, as I said, but it's good to have a little refresher. Okay, 3, working with possible sponsors. Hoorah! So make this about them, especially when working with sponsors. You always don't want to talk about I want or we want or team needs or blah, blah, blah. We always want to make it about them and how they helping us is making them better and how we are just a byproduct of them feeling better by staying a bit connected with others. Is that in relation to your networking comment? Okay. Teamwork does help the dream work. Thank you. Yeah, teamwork does help. And so, especially about sponsors, we kind of want to make it all about them. And sort of, we want to make sure that we're not saying, oh yeah, if you help us, it's going to benefit us, right? Because it's not only about our team, it's also about them. They're the ones sponsoring our team. And we want to be like, oh yeah, so if you help our team, right, like that happens, but it's also going to benefit you. And the reason why it benefits you is because you're helping us. And it's sort of just that reverse logic in terms of we twist things with that, right? So don't demand anything. That's probably the most important one. And throughout the entire presentation, you want to make sure you're not demanding anything from a sponsor. Ask if they're interested and ask what they are willing to provide for the club. You might be surprised what countries can provide that you wouldn't even think of, right? Like sometimes they can give off mentors. And when they give mentors off, like you never really ask for a mentor. You don't ask companies for mentors, but they can give you experienced worksmen that are mentors for your club. And that's really good because, that's experience for us. And it's a great sort of thing to have. Okay. Yeah, so never really demand anything. Just don't say, oh yeah, we expect $1,000 or you are getting canceled, because we are not expecting anything from them. They are donating to us, and that's how we should treat it. Be professional and use credibility. Being a school team means that we are under this umbrella of our school's reputation. Again, being at Chingusi, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but we have to assume it's a good thing. Regardless, we can use the reputation of our school to our advantage, basically, right? So the reputation has in terms of the sci-tech, we have, please and thank yous are always important, so common courtesy. But in terms of the ski tech program, we have, we can sort of show off and we can be like, look, we have like STEM passionate students here. They're really good about this. And in terms of our school, we've been running this program for like 7 years now. It's working really well. So we have a robotics team too, built on these sci-tech and non-sci-tech students learning from each other and building a better robot using the skills that they learn in school, right? So using our school reputation, we can get that sort of extra push for the sponsors and say, look, we have something benefiting us. And that's why you should go for us, because we have that sort of sci-tech tradition and history, and we also have a school in terms of robotics. Yes, so STEM does highly relate to the robot. Quite important. Okay, sounds good. And the other, I guess, credibility we have is that we have a pretty solid performance as a team. We can use our history to our advantage as well. And so here are a few, or only. We're going to change that, though. Here are the few awards that we've won. We've won the Rookie Inspiration Award in 2011, just to give a sense of how old this team was. It's about 10 years old now. And we've won the FRC World, or we went to the FRC World competitions in 2016, which is really cool. We represented Team Canada, so yay! Great news. But yeah, so just you can use that together to sort of benefit your presentation. It depends on how you're looking at it, but it's always great news. Moving on. Marketing ourselves. So outreach and opportunities are always, something that companies are looking forward to. So they want to invest in clubs where they know that they're investing in multiple people, not just one person. And so we need to give information about the ways that we can inspire and work with the community, right? So that's what I meant about the history of the events. Once you start going to a steady stream of events, we sort of have that history where we're like, oh yeah, look, we went to this one festival before. A lot of people enjoyed it. Look at these images on our social media. And then, we plug in our social media there too. And we are a good team giving back to our community. That's why you should support us, because we can give back to the community, and your money will also give back to the community and the students themselves. Speaking of students themselves, we talk about the opportunities that we can give to the people in our school. So in terms of a school, we have a diverse series of opportunities, but none of them as diverse as robotics. We cover so many different topics. all from programming, electrical engineering, computer-aided design, CAD, design, a lot of it, mechanical engineering, graphic design, business and outreach itself. There are a lot of different ways that we can get people connected in our school environment. And so these are opportunities that we can provide like as sort of a reference point for companies. So it's great. This should be what people are investing in when they sponsor our team, right? So we want them to be invested in our outreach and opportunities and what we can do as a team. So this is sort of what we want. This is the base guideline of what we want sponsors to be interested in. Donations and tax write-offs. Obviously, this shouldn't be the focus of why people donate to us, but in some situations it really is. It's still important to give that extra push as to why they should work with us. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, when you're giving donations, you can actually get a tax receipt. And so this receipt will be used and you can file it in with the taxes and your taxes will be exempt, or at least however much you donated. And so it's a really neat piece of work because it's encouraging large corporations to sort of start sponsoring people to lower their taxes. And essentially, we can give these tax receipts if they donate to us, and that may be one possible reason. Again, we don't want it to be the focus, but that may be one reason why people invest in our team. So yeah, we should provide this information close to the end, just in terms of the email structure, because it's what we want them to consider as the cherry on top, right? So they should already be interested in investing into us as like a team, but this should sort of be the cherry on top that's sort of like, yeah, look, I know you're interested in sponsoring us, but in case you needed that sort of little extra push, we do also give tax write-offs. So that's going to be a pretty good point for you guys. And like, oh, wow, yeah, tax write-offs. I don't like paying tax. Who likes paying tax? I was actually going to file my tax overseas, but, now I can act like a good person. And so we can sort of get that to them and get it as a good source of people giving us money, which I guess is the goal of this all. But again, we're in it for the sponsors. So sponsors also want to work with us to better the lives of students, not their own. And we want to have that message in terms of all of our things, right? So while the goal is to get money, we want to make sure we're getting money from the right places. We don't want money from people that just want tax write-offs. We want money from people who are interested in helping us out as students and helping our team out as a student-run team. Any questions so far? Because I covered a lot of stuff. No. I'll wait for anyone else if they have any questions. And very quickly look for my water bottle. It's going to be included in the meeting, isn't it? Did I find it? Oh, I didn't find my water bottle. Why? Why is the water bottle gone? My throat is parched. Oh my god. Okay. Let's continue. Okay, so it is 3:38, and let's continue. Okay, so here are the promotions, or here's just a little overview of a plan. So this isn't the definite plan. This is just one that Armand and I planned out, but of course it can come with changes. But these are just sort of the promotions of how they can sponsor us and what the sponsorships look like. Also, I noticed that the sign on the 200 is reversed. It should be the other way around. But plan one is less than $200, and so this is more of a recognition on our social media and website, a small sticker on the robot, and a recognition plaque from the team, which is just like, those pictures of thank you for donating signed on the back from someone. So that's sort of like the plan one, right? So these are for the smaller donations, so definitely the parents. We want to send one of these home with the parents too, just to sort of tell them thank you for signing with us and thank you for supporting us. And here's our sort of gift back to you guys, right? And so we kind of want to keep it as that source of connection to the team as well, right? So if their siblings ever go to school, we want their siblings to be interested as well. And that's kind of why we give that plaque. And the small sticker on the robot is also because these competitions do get televised. So they are on Twitch TV, watched by a lot of people. So we do get publicity in that form. So some teams or some companies might be interested in putting a sticker on the robot at that point. So plan two involves everything in plan one, which includes the plaque and everything, along with some merch and a personal presentation done by the team on request. And so you might be wondering, why would they want a presentation? And so to that, I reply, especially in bigger companies, they sort of want to get that sense of community well-being, right? And so it's sort of like, oh, look, here are a couple of high school students, and they're going to do a little presentation for us about how cute their little robot is. And we walk in with a death robot, and we're like, wow, so impressive. And everyone claps, and we get views and subscribers on YouTube. If you don't subscribe to our YouTube channel, please do that if you haven't subscribed yet. But the point is, we can get them a presentation and sort of gives them a little jump in terms of morale and connection to the community. So presentations are sometimes requested, and we do sort of want to keep that in mind. Plan 3 involves everything in Plan 2, which includes a medium sticker on the robot instead of a small one, and a live robot demo during the presentation on request. And so if we walk in to the meeting, I have these are not many tabs though. I do have a tabbed group for this robotics thing, which is way more tabs, but it's okay. In terms of the what's it called? The live robot demo. For the previous one, it's more of a presentation about what robotics is and what we do, right? And not a lot of people want to listen to that. But this is going to provide a live robot demo. So we bring our robot into their company, we bring it in and we're like, look at this thing we made. And they're like, wow, clap, 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 clap. And we shoot dodgeballs at people if they're wearing green. It's a funny joke. Sorry. Okay, yeah, but live robot demos are a great thing, and it's sort of a good way to price our things. So this is from about $1,000 to $4,999, which you might be thinking, holy hell, who is paying that much? Well, hopefully bigger companies are. So it's cool. Plan 4. In Plan 4, we have our price from about $5,000 to $9,999. It includes everything from Plan 3, but a large sticker present on the robot, a logo present on our banner, and promotional material. And so what that implies is, do you also get some free stuff later? Like for you guys, like robotics members? I don't know, maybe. You guys get t-shirts, I think. Last year we gave out t-shirts for free, so you guys get t-shirts. If we have access merch, you guys are probably going to get that too. You get stickers. You also get the whole experience. You get the whole experience. I'm clapping. Yeah, you guys get t-shirts, so be happy with that. Hopefully get t-shirts, unless we're broke again this year. Y'all have 4XL? I'll look into it. I mean, 3XL might be possible. I don't know about 4XL. But yeah, okay, so Plan 4 is logo present on banner and promotional material. And so what that means is every time we make a little bit of a poster or a banner for our events or something, then we have to add their logo in on the bottom or somewhere, just to sort of pay homage to them and say, yeah, they gave us a lot of money, and we're respecting them for it, right? Because we always want to respect our sponsors. Our sponsors are people too, corporations too, and they were interested in us, so we want to respect that. And we want to make sure that they get the recognition they deserve. So we put their logos on our promotional material as well. And another key point here is that we have what's it called? We have a pit thing, right, in the events. Actually, I'll explain that next time. But the thing is, we have a really big banner at one point during competitions. And so a lot of companies want to get their logo on that big banner because it gets televised. And it's a huge position for logos. So it's always a good place to put stuff. Finally, we have Plan 5, which is $10,000 and beyond. So it includes everything in Plan 4, but a larger logo present on the banner. So, that's always good. Specialized callouts during televised competitions. And so you may be wondering, specialized callouts, what do you mean? We don't really have any robots to build right now, but we will be building them later, next year especially. And so in terms of the special commentary I was talking about, it's all about it's in a game competition sort of format. So they're like Team 3560 Robotics when they're like announcing the alliances and stuff. And so when they're announcing their team names, they can actually announce sponsor names. So General Motors sponsored us a while back, and they gave us a huge package. And so our name is actually General Motors of Canada and Chinguzi Robotics because we're connected with them. And so our name, they're mixed into our names. So if you guys watch Formula One, we're sort of sponsored with them at that level, which is why not a lot of people, but some people may be really interested in Plan 5. And of course, in Plan 4, you get a special trophy of appreciation, which is a bigger trophy that, we procure and create maybe out of like spare robotics parts. This is going to be an even specialer trophy of appreciation, probably bigger, and will contain more merch, maybe for a lot more people, amongst other things. So always good to have, and always good to sort of have these promotions to have people interested in sort of sponsoring our club. So we're not just basing it off of nothing, they get something out of it too, right? So it's all about them, not about us. Okay, that was a lot of talking. I still need water. Any questions for the promotions? Any improvements or suggestions? Again, Armand and I really did develop this by ourselves, so we don't know for sure if there's something that we should change or if there's something that we should make better. just let us know, really, if you have anything, and we'll try to make improvements. We'll consider it. Sound good? Sounds good. Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm tired. Okay, let's continue. Financing and budgeting. So going back a little bit, this is going to be a relatively short section because it is basically common sense to an extent. So 2 key points here are always ask for alternatives. Make sure you check with the people of the teams, right? So if you're in programming, check with programming. If you're in electrical, check with the electrical to find any alternatives to the product they want to buy, right? So let's say that they want to buy a sensor, then they'll always want to, especially in programming or something. I will be posting the presentation. That's the goal. I'll get that up there. So I'll put a link to that. So the point is, especially when we're buying sensors that are expensive. So let's say the Limelight vision sensor for programming, that's about a $400 vision sensor. And so we always want to make sure we know the alternatives to that. While it is easy in one way, ask the programming team. Say, oh look, I know you guys wanted this $400 sensor, but I'm thinking, hey, maybe if we go for this cheaper one, or do you guys know any alternatives? And they're like, yeah, we can get a Raspberry Pi instead. And they're like, oh, maybe we can make do with that because that's only about $70, right? Business-related things for the club, like where will be work? I will actually get to that. That's close to the end of the presentation. I'm going to be doing that. Yeah, you can use an Xbox Connect or any other sensors. So, right, it's just sort of that connection, and that's kind of what we want them to think about. So are there any alternatives? Is there a way we can lower the cost? And so the business team, you guys, are in charge of maintaining costs and keeping them as low as possible, right? We don't want like a huge deficit just because one team wanted to buy the best possible parts. It's also crucial to know all possible routes. So all possible routes that your budgeting can go to make sure that you can work with the teams to get the best purchase for the budget, right? So if the $400 Limelight sensor is much better than the alternatives, then we can still go with that. We just need to make sure that we checked all the alternatives and make sure that we have all possible options before we continue on with it. Sound good? Sound good. Okay. Next main thing is check. So before making any purchases, make sure you confirm with the people you are buying the parts for. So again, all purchases will go through Armand and I and the teachers because the money is sort of controlled by them to an extent. So at the end, it is always going to go through that. But you guys will sort of submit a form to us and we'll look at the form and we'll be like, yeah, this purchase is approved, and we approve the purchase. Or we say, no, you guys are insane. What are you doing? We're not buying this. And we cancel it, right? So it really just depends. But you guys are sort of that final wall before it reaches us. So you always need to make sure that you check with the other people that you're buying the parts for, right? So if someone asks for something and you find it on a website and they didn't give you a link, they said, Google it, it's the first result. And so you open the first result and it's the wrong thing. That means we wasted money on the wrong thing, right? And so we don't want that to happen. Always make sure you check with the people who you're buying the parts for. Say, is this exactly what you wanted? Did you look at all the alternatives? Did you make sure that this is the best possible thing that we need? Are there any purchases that we need to make beside it? Right? So always just make sure you check and get the whole package done. Again, another big thing is we have about 10 years of history as a team, right? And so we probably have quite a few things lying around, especially in terms of mechanical components, electrical components. So it's always important to make sure that we don't have it already in stock before we actually do anything. And that's pretty relevant. Okay, so if you don't need to purchase it, please don't purchase it or don't put a form in for it because that's going to take up more time for us and it's going to clutter things up and lower our trust in you. So if you don't think you need it, just remove it from your head and delete the thought. There we go. Any questions for this or any questions for these one slide? I think it's just one slide. No questions?
I was just wondering, are you gonna post the slideshow on like Google Classroom or something?
Yes, the slideshow will be posted on Google Classroom. I've been speaking for too long.
All right, sounds good. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just post a link to it. It should be good. Okay. Finally, this is our last section. This was made by Armand, so the format is probably a little bit different. And I told him to go in detail, but he didn't. So if there are any issues with this, blame Armand. That's where I'm going to go with this. So costs associated. Okay. Oh, wow, this sucks. Okay, so robot stuff. In terms of actually building the robot itself, it is pretty expensive. So total cost of the component for the robot is about $5,000. We typically come close to that cost, but that doesn't include the kit of part items. So let me make that distinction because I'm probably talking in an alien language. So robot components are basically, let's say, the motors, the metal needed, the wood, the power board, the batteries, and the processor and everything else, right? So the cost of all of that mixed together is about $5,000, right? Really expensive. Nobody expected it to be $5,000, but it is. This does not include kit of parts items. So kit of parts items are like the base of every single robot, right? So all robots have these basic items. And so these basic items are things like the chassis, and the chassis is the base of the bottom and everything, right? So that's sort of just the cost distribution of it. The base things are about $1,000, and then the cost of the robot components is about $5,000. So everything on top, including sensors, motors, and everything else. Prototyping materials and tools can often cost another $1,500. So luckily, we go to Chingusi Secondary School, which means we have laser cutters and 3D printers at our school. But in terms of other prototyping parts, we might need spare processors, spare robot parts, right? So they can cost up to, I think, like 1,000, 1,500. You can reach that amount. Okay, so I see a few questions here. I read them before. Okay, I think I answered the BP's question. We're going to get to that. We have to calculate it all together, like all the different parts too. Yeah, we do. So Armand just made generalizations. I was going to make it more detailed. I'll do that in the next slides when I actually, have the time to get to it over the weekend. And so the total is about $7,500. Again, this can be higher or lower depending on how cost efficient we are, the price of the parts that year, and shipping and other things, right? So cost can fluctuate, but it's typically around $7,500. I think that's a nice upper bound. Definitely in the higher price ranges for a robot. So it's the goal is to bring the price down, the price down. So typically bought from these following robotics vendors. So vendors are like stores. So you have Vex Pro. They make a lot of good equipment, and I'm actually going to touch on them later on in this thing. We have 8 minutes. Studica, which is a Canadian supplier of AndyMark. AndyMark is an American company. So Studica is like a supplier of that American company. They have robotics parts as well. And Rev Robotics, which is Rev Robotics. That's a company named Rev, and they sell robotics parts. Let me move this. Actually, it's blocking the bottom. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's up here now. Okay. So logistics. And so this is more of the competition fees. Yeah. Wait. Did you say something? Okay. I don't think I heard anything. Logistics is more of the cost of everything else in the competition. So it's about $5,000 for registration, which again, a lot of money. That's the cost of our robot, essentially. And that's only one competition. Typically, as an FRC team, we have 2 competitions. There are preliminaries, and then we head into provincials, regionals, and blah, blah, blah. So we start off with 2 regionals, and then provincials, and then we have, I think, nationals. I don't even know if we have a nationals. And then we have an international world competition. So that's sort of the general format. So about $9,000 for the first 2 regional competitions. And then we pay about $20 a student for t-shirts. Again, if we get a good t-shirt manufacturer, if we get a sponsorship with them, this price can go down significantly, but it strays around the $1,200 range. It just depends. $1,500 it can even go up to if you get like a high quality thing. It really just depends. But the total cost of everything totals to about $10,200, which is so expensive. And the total price of our thing is about $17,700. Again, big approximation, with about a 15% safety factor. So let's say we break a processor, or let's say we break an important motor or something, then we always need to have that sort of safety factor in our robot or in our costs. So we tend to keep it around 15%. So the generalized cost is about $2,000. I think is a nice price for how much it costs. But yeah, $2,000 is a good one. Any questions so far about the summarized cost? Do you guys think it's expensive, or do you think was it something you're expecting, or were you expecting it to be higher or lower? No. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It is a lot of money. It is a crazy amount of money, especially for students, right? Like you don't ever hear of other clubs dealing with this much money. Have you guys heard of another club dealing with this much money? I don't think you've really. I don't think any other club in our school deals with that much. I think SAD C might, but that sucks. Nobody likes SAD C. So I think this is the only club in our school that's accessible that can really be accessed. Yeah, it's about the price of a cheap car. It's also, I think, the close to the lower end of yearly income of some people. So It's a crazy amount of money. Last year, I think we spent $2,500 actually, which is a lot more. But that's because we broke a lot of safety factors and we were a completely new team, which is why our budget was completely drained as well. Anyways, that's the end of the presentation for now, so you guys can stop dealing with that. And let's talk about how we're going to be planning this out. So, oh yeah, let's do a little demonstration about choosing alternatives. So motors, you guys can see the Vex Pro screen, right? You see these things over here? There's Falcon 500, Talon SRX, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so these are obviously motors, or not obviously, but these are motor controllers. So this is a motor, this is a motor controller. So buying motors to control a robot is typically decently expensive. So motor controllers look like this. They're like black little bricks, and they control the speed of the motors. This is a Falcon 500. It's a unique little device. It was released last year. It comes built in with a motor controller, so it saves a lot of space. But as you can tell, it's a lot more expensive. And then this is these are the motors that we actually use in a robot. They're called sim motors. So there's a mini sim for like small purpose things, but the drive always uses like proper sim motors. Bag motors suck, so we're just not going to deal with them. And then these are the other parts that are like the actual running parts of the thing, right? So I just had a question, not a question, but if we're looking at buying a motor, right? So let's say that this one saves a lot of space, right? Like if we use this one, then we have to put the bricks somewhere on our robot, and then we also have to add this in, but this one saves a lot of space and weight. Weight is very important, right? So which one would be the better option? So if we add up the Talon SRX cost over here, it's about 45 and 117. And if my math is correct, which is not, it's about, I think, 162 bucks, I think around there. Yeah, about 162, that should be the amount. I don't do mental math. But it's significantly cheaper than the Falcon 500. So which motor should we go for? Should we go for the cheaper ones that are a bit heavier and are a little bit more complicated? Or should we go for the Falcon 500? And I forgot to mention, the Falcon 500 comes built in with a special sensor called an encoder. It's a sensor that we need in a robot. So if we were to buy encoders by ourselves, they cost about, I think this is this is the one we generally use. This one is a lot more expensive. We don't use that one. But this one, they cost about $11, $12. So totaling this up, they're about the same cost, but this is so many more components, and we have to build everything together, and it's more parts. So wouldn't the better investment be the slightly more expensive Falcon 500, or would it be better to go for the cheaper one? Condition of our robot and budget. Okay. Falcon 500. Okay. I'm saying this because we are buying these parts right now, so just wanted to get you guys' insight on that. Yeah, sure, Akash.
Yeah, so what I was saying is because a motor is like one of the vital parts of a robot, right? I don't think it would be a good idea to cheap out on the motor, because the robot does have to like last multiple rounds. So like in my opinion, we should go with the more expensive one. The Falcon 500 is the more expensive one.
Okay. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. We should go with the more expensive one, but not always. There is actually another one. I think it's called a Spark Max. Oh, and I got a call. Sorry. See, this is why you don't do that. Okay, yeah. So there's Spark Max motor controller, right? And so Spark Maxes are from Rev Robotics. So they're on a different website. They're actually not on the same one. But now you're thinking, okay, look. So this Spark Max is about $75. It's a little bit more expensive, but it actually comes built in with a lot of things, a USB-C connector. Holy hell. And it connects directly with another motor. So the Spark Max is more expensive, actually, when combined with the other motor. I think it totals to about $200. So should we always go with the more expensive one, or should we go with the cheaper one? That's the question, because one of them is more condensed, but the more expensive one is known to have more features, but we just don't know for sure, right? So you guys don't have enough of an idea, which is why I'm always saying, talk to the electrical team, right? Get all possible options. Make sure you look at all possible options, talk with them, sort of have that discussion and go like, okay, look, I know we're buying a motor, but just give me a rundown of what the pros and cons are for each one, and we'll get to it. So that's the end of the meeting. And next time we will be learning about networking and how we can talk to other people and get that stuff done, so that we can get connections and outreach. You can end the meeting. You can end the recording, Mr. Saud. Yeah.